This week on Media Delta, we discuss Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland. Let's see if this was one to sleep on. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Media Delta. We're looking at something kind of interesting in many ways. We'll see about that. This is a movie that it's kind of the fact that it got made to begin with is kind of interesting. We're talking about Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland today, which was an animated movie that was released in 1989. That has it's just weird because it's for some reason decided that the best movie to release in the 80s was a cartoon rendition of a comic strip that was from the 1900s, like the early
yeah,
1900s. Yeah, if you're not familiar with the comic strip Little Nemo, it was I think it started in 1905. It was by Winsor McCay. And it was a comic strip about a boy who goes, when he dreams, goes to Slumberland and has many adventures with some occasionally questionably designed people, but
It's a
nonetheless.
very nice way of putting it.
Yeah, so I am not the only one who watched this, so enough about a quarter. Please introduce.
Hi, I'm Axe, and I tend to dream evil.
I'm the portable stove, and yeah, I am ready to buy a bed, I guess. I don't know. I'll look around a little bit more, I guess.
I'm Torpotypus, and I'm here for the vague attempts to cover up racist characters.
Yeah, so
He was sickly
don't-
green, it's fine.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I
We'll
see
get
it
into that when
now.
we talk about the characters. But yeah, I got some questions that need answering. So for us to go through this interesting movie. Ax, what was your general impressions, and is there a scene you would like to talk about?
Okay. First of all, I'm gonna tip my hand here and say that I really enjoyed this movie a lot, like an incredible amount. Like, while I was watching it, I kind of actually remember feeling kind of the same way I did when I first saw Spirited Away. It's vibrant. There's just a lot of character to it. It's charming in certain ways, not in the way that Torpid just mentioned. But there are some flaws to it. But overall, like I enjoyed it enough that I actually watched it again today, just about an hour before we started recording.
See, I'm really starting to get a feel for what you like in movies.
Dude, I would love you to tell me that. I enjoyed the mood that the movie went for. I liked the characters. There were a couple that I didn't. I'm sure we all have the same character we didn't like. It was weirdly paced, but also that kind of it makes sense in context to this because it's about dreams. So I let it slide. I mean, as far as scenes go, I mean, there's a lot of good scenes, but I guess just off the top of my head, the one that I liked the most was the princess just cold cocking Flip. It was wonderful. And basically any scene where she hits Flip was fantastic.
Yeah, he kind of had it coming to him.
Yeah. But no, like this was a really good movie. I liked it a lot. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up.
After that, Stove, what are your thoughts on it?
So here's the thing about Little Nemo. This is probably like the fourth time I've ever seen this, because I watched this like a few times as a kid. I watched it one time as a teenager, like, oh, I remember that. I'll give it a look. And then watching it just now, I will say it is not a bad movie. It's not, just starting off strong. It's not bad.
Already needing to defend yourself.
It ain't shit, but it also ain't shit.
That's pretty much it. Like, here's Little Nemo is a gorgeous movie to look at. I don't know if you're gonna go into this in detail, Lolo, but Little Nemo was
history?
Yeah.
Oh, I got the notes.
Yeah. Just a quick thing. Little Nemo was made by TMS, people who made some really good early cartoons that people like. One coming to mind, Tiny Toon Adventures. But yeah, no, the movie looks gorgeous. It looks really good. The problem is, like, and I guess this is just a me problem. I pretty much just tapped out, like, I'd say 75% of the way through, because I just, at some point, didn't really care about what was happening. Like, it's
going.
Yeah, if
It feels way longer than it actually is, and that is my one criticism of the film, was it was way, way longer than it really, like
Should have been.
not should have been, it's just it felt longer than it actually turned out to be, 'cause at one point I was kinda like, "Oh, it's still going? We're not done yet?"
Yeah.
Like,
It
yeah,
it just keeps going, and at a certain point, I'm just like, "Oh, okay, I kinda get it now." And after I was done, I was like, "Yep, okay, I think I'm good on this for a long while again." So, yeah, it's not necessarily that it's bad, it's just that after a certain point, it just gets kinda if anything. But it is a very gorgeous movie to look at, the animation is very good, and you can tell, like, they put a lot into making the movie, animating the movie as well, just it looks nice, just not much to really talk about in terms of I don't know,
And
pacing.
it was written by one of my favorite authors.
And then as far as a scene, like I was going to go with the scene in the castle where everybody is just dancing for a while and the king is literally too engrossed in the groove to actually do anything useful. But I think one of the scenes that just kind of hammered home the pacing point to me is the 5 minutes near the ending where little Nemo is trying to cast the spell using the scepter and he keeps fucking it up. Just how many times can we say pajama? Well, let's find out. It
His
just
squirrel
goes
is even
on.
there with notes listing the entire incantation.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. Not kind of down the middle. Not like super bad, but closer to good, but not.
okay. All right, Torpo, how about you?
Oh boy. It is all style and no substance. It's very pretty to look at, but the actual story and writing, not even. The animation's very nice. The backgrounds are absolutely fucking. I will never deny that. But the actual story is barely there. The princess, no real personality. Nemo has even less, aside from child, and just in general, it's not. Also, I really appreciate their attempts to clean up some designs to make them look less racist, but you still tell.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a question like right after this one that'll address that.
Yeah, there is a question that that wasn't the intent of that question, but that's kind of how it's going to end up being, I have a feeling.
But yeah,
Um
I don't think it was a bad movie. I'm not gonna pretend I really enjoyed it a whole lot, and it definitely felt like it went on way too long. But it was at least nice to. I'll give it that.
okay. Is there a scene that you'd like to point out?
The part where they're trying to teach Nemo with all these teachers how to be a prince, because this is just this weird throwaway scene that they never talk about ever again, and they're perfectly fine with an uneducated prince. Because at one
Yeah.
point, it's basically the king is like, "Yeah, we got to educate you on how to be a prince now that I've chosen you to be my successor." And so they just throw a bunch of teachers at him in like this little musical bit, and they all overwhelm him, and it all goes terribly, and he sneaks out, and then we never talk about it ever.
Yeah. Uh yeah, that is what leads him to who I'm feeling is going to be all of our favorite.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on this are somewhat complicated because as a kid, I remember watching it and I never really like. I remember like, oh yeah, I watched that movie. I did not remember a single thing from it. But coming later as someone who's kind of a bit of an animation buff, this I kind of couldn't watch this movie as a movie itself. Just I was watching this from a more technical perspective because I feel like I should go into the kind of the production history of this for a little bit because the thing that's interesting to me is that there are some names that are associated with it.
Hmm.
But
Max,
actually,
you mentioned
what-
me you mentioned Spirited Away.
Yeah.
It looking like Spirited Away.
Well, not
There's a
looking
reason
like it, there was a feeling that I got
there is a
watching it
there's a
that
reason behind
reason.
that. A
Mhm.
lot of Studio Ghibli, but prior to Studio Ghibli's founding, a lot of people who worked at Ghibli worked on this. Going into the middle of the story, including Miyazaki, worked on
Oh,
this movie for a little bit because this movie had kind of a little bit of a production issue history. Like it was not a clean
Over a
production. Uh,
decade.
so this movie originally came out in 1989. The producer of this, let me get his name. It was I don't know why I can't pronounce this name. Yukata Fujioka, who I believe is a Ghibli or would eventually become Ghibli. He is very tied to Tokyo Movie Shinwa or Shinsha, as Stove mentioned. And he personally flew to the States, to California, to talk to the descendants of Windsor McKay, because apparently, I guess he was a fan of Little Nemo. this Japanese man who was for some reason got into this weird American comic strip that didn't no one really talks about. Also remember, and so keep in mind, this is 1977 we're talking about. He approached one George Lucas to produce this in 1977. Uh, I think he was a bit busy at that time.
Yeah, just a little.
Also, apparently, George Lucas declined the project because he had problems with the storyline and the fact that there was no character development for the titular character. Which I mean, it's a comic strip kind of thing, so it's that problem of everyone's always the same in a comic strip thing.
You don't
Yeah,
go
no, it
over
was
to
great,
John
'cause-
Davis's house and say, "Hey, when is Garfield gonna learn his lesson?"
When is Garfield gonna love that Mondays can be okay? Also, he
When
approached
is
Chuck.
Garfield gonna learn that Mondays are okay because he doesn't fucking?
Also, he approached Chuck Jones on this, but he declined.
Really?
Yeah.
That tracks kinda. I
That's
could
interesting.
believe that.
So it was announced apparently in 1982, and yeah, when Gary Kurtz was associated with this, he also is a person who is tied. If you're familiar with Lucas's stuff, he was a producer who worked on American Graffiti, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, The Dark Crystal, Return of Oz, a lot of pretty prominent things, especially tied to Lucas. Yeah. So other names are associated, as I mentioned, Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata, who would eventually become Ghibli. They worked on it, left due to creative differences. Miyazaki specifically did not want to work on a film in which it primarily took place in a dream. Also, he later described working on that process as one of the worst experiences he's had in animation.
Oh, jeez.
Miyazaki doesn't mince words.
Yeah.
No.
His story about the first movie his kid made is still my absolute favorite Miyazaki, second only to the Katanas.
Yeah. Also, let's see, they were succeeded by Andy Gaskill and Yoshifumi Kondo, who was another Studio Ghibli person. He that later they also left after they did produce a kind of a pilot for it, but then they left. Osamu Dezaki also worked on it, who is, if you're not familiar with him, he was an animator working on things like, say, Space Adventure Cobra, and also Rosa Versailles, and some kind of more popular in Japan. But he is still a relatively well-known animator or Japanese animation person. And then eventually, they did end up landing on an animator. I can't seem to find who they finally landed on, but that's the animation side. Music side, the Sherman brothers are responsible for doing music of this. You might not know their name, but you've definitely heard their music because they did stuff like, say, Mary Poppins and The Jungle Book and The Aristocats and Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, that tracks.
Pretty big music.
And then on top of that, the movie was written by Ray Bradbury, who wrote Fahrenheit 451, Something Wicked This Way Comes, amongst other things. But there's the more popular stuff that he's.
Yep. He had a hand in that. Also, when Chris Columbus worked on this too.
he just walked in one day. It's like, I've discovered this.
He discovered this movie.
This
Also, would
India?
later go on to discover things like the Harry Potter movies and the Percy Jackson movies. So yeah, it's just weird how this movie has such huge names associated to it. Before we go, the voice casting list is also pretty big animation, like names in animation. Yeah, Alan Oppenheimer, Michael Bell,
Michael Bell, yeah.
Renee. I can never pronounce his last name. Adjubert, like
Yep. Posted in podcast. Let me see if I can take a crack at it.
I'm pretty sure you know the person. It's he was
Rene Aubergenois.
Yeah. He is a pretty prominent voice actor. Things like I'm trying to think. I know he was in a lot. He was a.
Oh yes, no, okay. Immediately, I recognize him from Frasier because he was Frasier's.
Yeah, he
mentor.
was in an episode of Frasier. That's where I first.
He was in the MASH movie.
I'm gonna throw both of you.
He was Father Mulcahy in the MASH movie. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he is a very. If you watch the '80s sitcoms, you've seen this guy.
He was in The Little Mermaid.
Yep.
He was Chef Louis. He sang Les Poissons.
Regardless,
I barely remember Little Nemo, but or Little Mermaid. The probably other name that people might be familiar with is Mickey Rooney, who
What does he do?
he voices Flip in this
Ah.
movie, which is fitting because the thing people might know Mickey Rooney from, other
Oh
than
yeah. Ooh.
he is the guy, this white
16
person
candles.
who was the Japanese guy in Breakfast at
Oh, it
Tiffany's.
was Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's right. That was
Yeah, it's great that they got him to do Flip.
the name of that character.
Also, look, Lolo, if there's anything I have learned, you can have all the talent in the world working on something and still turn out to be a pile of dog shit. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Also, other voice names: Nancy Cartwright, Tress MacNeille, June Foray.
Yep.
But yeah, that is why I kind of find this fascinating, is because it's just what this thing just, it's from a, like, all these people worked on it and like how it managed to actually come out.
We made it bad as a joke.
It just kind of reminds me of that recently, as of this recording, the most recently released version of or that version of what's the Bird on the Orient Express.
Oh,
Where
okay.
It was just all these names that are associated to it, and it's just, I'm like, oh, it's okay.
I mean that, and on that one I'd be like, yeah, but that's also because they were doing it after David Suchet had already done the best version of A, Poirot, and B, Murder on the Orient Express. So
I mean, yes.
anything past that is just going to be
I mean, yes, but still.
yeah.
So
But no,
that-
I get what you're saying. Like,
regardless.
it's crazy how just like big this cast is in terms of just staffed and you know, cast, like you're saying, and it turning out, you know, the way that the just the difficulties they had with it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts or general impressions of the film. So let's talk about some of the characters more specifically. Stern Tarpo. What are your thoughts on the setting / characters?
Boy, howdy. I mean, I guess it's technical. Once again, the setting is not really a setting. It's all. I feel like I say this way too often, but it's all fucking set dressing. It's all to show off these wonderful visuals and all that, because it's a fucking dream. There's not really. Yeah, so there's that. The characters are. They exist, I guess. Nemo has no personality outside of just kind of spoiled kid, and he never improves. He learns nothing. He never gets better. He's always a shit, and it's great.
Nemo never learns how to love Mondays.
He never
Except it's like,
improves.
maybe I should, keep my word. It is like, oh, then everything's back to normal.
Except he doesn't even learn that because his parents are like, fucking whatever, we're gonna reward you for being a shit, Nemo, it's fine.
I don't know if that's, no.
He ate the pie and his mom's like, I'm sorry. And his dad's like, let's go to the fucking circus. After he was a...
Yeah.
I have very little. The princess is just kind of your typical snooty, snobby. The king, a hot mess.
The king is interesting because he's basically
He's-
just this,
A giant man-child.
yeah.
He's very
And I'm not-
kingly.
like, it's fine to enjoy trains, fucking whatever, but he's so bad at doing his duties and instead just kind of fucks everything up. Like, here, Nemo, I'm gonna give you this big fucking key to this door to the Nightmare Realm and not tell you what it does, but tell you to not use it regardless.
Yeah, just don't open that door, because if there's anything that children absolutely love, it's being told, don't open things and don't tell them what's behind the thing.
And he's like, Nemo, check out this sweet fucking staff that's basically a nuke. No, you can't use it. You're too young, but it is yours. And it's like he does all this shit, and then just like at the fucking party, as Nemo is busy fucking around, the king's just dancing nonstop for no particular reason.
Yeah.
Just really getting into it. And it's just the king kind of sucked. The train was fine though. That was perfect.
Yeah.
And then there's Flip.
And
Yeah.
then there's Flip.
Flip is
Come on, you can do
a
it, Lolo. I
relic
believe in
of
you.
the fact that this was made in 1905.
Truck
He
through
is
this,
very
dude.
obviously supposed to be a racist caricature, but it's
Uh,
fine, you see, because they made him sickly green.
He's
Well,
green.
so the thing is that he was sometimes green in the actual comic strip. I want to say that they changed him halfway through. Here's the thing, though. Other fun thing about this is that they left a character out that shows up a lot in Little Nemo comic strips. That's named the Imp, who
Oh.
No.
is not colored green. I am going to let you all who are
I
in
just
this
found
call-
I just found a picture.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that is a not okay depiction of someone.
Yeah. Oof.
To describe it for you listening, he is a native stereotype. That is it. Like, it is like as he is basically missing one nose bone to become the worst possible stereotype.
That actually reminds me of another great thing. One point we see a bunch of servants, and it's very obvious how they're supposed to look, but their skin's been lightened a bit to
Yeah.
make it less
Yeah,
obvious.
they have patches of dark skin in places that are uncomfortable.
and patches of very light or pale skin in other places that make it uncomfortable.
I know no one's going to be able to see this, like, actually with, this being an audio podcast or whatever, but why is this frog honking? I don't get it. I guess because it is Slumberland.
I was gonna
I
say,
shouldn't question
weren't
it.
there honking frogs in one of the dream sequences? Also, I found a toy of Imp that
Why?
is the worst.
I just like that Imp is driving a chariot run by goats with a frog
Yeah,
horn.
but the goat chariot appeared in the actual.
And Imp did not, thankfully and gracefully.
Yeah,
Ain't that convenient?
Uh-huh.
did not
Yeah.
appear in that or the game, any of the games.
Can't imagine why.
Which,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's Flip fucking sucks.
yeah.
Flip overall is just
But it-
trash.
And just to point out like what exactly Flip was is basically you finally well you see him before and he's described basically as this awful person by Professor Genius. And basically he is basically the avatar of mischief, essentially.
He's a
Is
fucking
basic-
shyster.
Yeah, and he is like in the police station. There are about 6 wanted posters of him of varying prices on his head, of which for some reason they just don't capture him until they do. In which I just remember what their method of execution essentially was, which
Launching
was
him.
yeah,
Stick
they
him in
launch
a
him out of
ball, yeah, and put
stick
him
him
in
in
a
the
cannon.
ball and shoot him into space. Like I like when we were like hearing like they heard that thing. It was like, oh, they caught him and they're gonna shoot him into space, and they just kind of like, wait, what?
It's known as the Futurama execute. Shot out of a
Yep.
cannon into the. But no, it's a
Yes.
perfect. Honestly, for Flip, I think it's a perfectly good execution.
Yes,
Yeah, so just Flip fucking sucks overall. He's a goddamn shyster. He screws over little Nemo repeatedly, and Nemo still forgives him and is fine with it. And it's terrible because he's done nothing but fuck Nemo over. He was never good to Nemo.
he is the reason that the entire second half of the movie, second two-thirds of the movie
The
happens.
entire movie. He's the one who told Nemo to open the fucking door.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like once he gets
And
into
then in Nightmare
Slumberland,
Realm, he's like, I have a map. Immediately fucks up the map and bullshits it. And the only really fun thing he did the entire movie was fucking smoke a massive stogie.
yeah, that was great. At the very end, he pulls like essentially a cigar that is like 5 times his size. And I was just thinking, there's got to be a screen. Someone has got to take a screen cap of that someplace and replace that with a blunt.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. That never mind. Fuck it.
No, I need to hear this thought.
Just yeah, I guess, but also holy shit.
Do you think in Slumberland, if they partake in the whatever their equivalent of marijuana is, that they just see real?
That sounds terrible, actually.
But no, the real is not like the real. It's like when a cartoon tries to do real and it's just with puppets.
It's like Adventures. It's like Gumball.
Yeah. Or The Simpsons when they did Homer goes into the real world.
Oh yeah, and like it's all claymation.
Yeah.
All right.
So now just remind of Chowder when they joked about running out of the budget, so they had the voice actors all do a fucking car wash. On camera, mind you.
It's a great show.
No, you know what it makes me think of, Lolo? It makes me think of fucking Sonic Boom, where he goes too deep, and it's Roger Craig Smith in a fucking Sonic costume taking out the trash.
A little too
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
You can go deeper.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Characters in this.
Characters in there.
Yeah. Stove, you want to take a shot at this?
I'll give it a shot, I guess. So as for the setting, I kind of do agree that it is set dressing, but also, admittedly, I really like looking at it. I feel like it does kind of have a fun design to it in terms of, yes, this is what a child would probably dream that a magical mystery world would be. There's no real cohesion to it, but the biggest, like, the most depressing and kind of lackluster part is the Nightmare Realm, which is kind of just your run-of-the-mill dark forest place, and then the big old castle, kind of dull. In terms of the characters, yeah, everybody kind of just fills their roles. You have Nemo, who is the main snot-nosed character, just kind of messing stuff up as he goes along and not learning a moral, except maybe keep your promises, maybe sort of, kind of. don't sleepwalk, I guess. I don't know what that
He
scene
was
was.
sleepwalking the pie.
Ah, yeah. I was going to mention, how the hell do people like sleepwalk and just hold their arms out like that? I don't know if that's. I know.
When
It's
I
it's
used to
a
sleepwalk, I never did the arms thing, but I have had conversations.
yeah.
Yeah, I know
I
that part's
People
legitimate.
fucking drive in their sleep.
so the hand thing. I don't know where it started, but it is a trope that is intended to just indicate the person is sleepwalking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
I think
I think the idea is that when a person's sleepwalking, people have mistaken them as like zombies, or they act like they're in a zombie-like state. Hence the hands forward, kind of like a zombie walking sort of trope. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, the professor was nothing. Kind of agree on the king that he was just kind of a big old goofball, but that kind of wears out its welcome during the like 8 minutes that Nemo's trying to yell for his attention and he still keeps dancing. People are dying and he keeps dancing. It's weird. And yeah, there's Flip. Flip, so obviously, yeah, the big thing is that even if you look at him and you have no context for the comic strip, you have no context for the time, you just look and you think, oh, I get it. I immediately see what Flip is supposed to be. It's kind of like blue Mr. Popo. Like you can't hide that shit. And
Purple
yeah,
Jinx.
yeah. And as a character, yeah, he's pretty much just he's there for comic relief. He's the mischievous jerk who gets Nemo in trouble, and Nemo just goes along with it because he's a kid. He doesn't know any better. And I agree. So you say the best thing that Flip does is smoke the giant cigar, which he then immediately hacks up because what the fuck? He took the biggest puff of it of all time. But also the best thing involving Flip is just him getting punched by the princess. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I did forget to mention the Nightmare King because he has zero presence in the movie. He
Oh,
exists pretty much at the end, kills
also,
all of his court, and
yeah.
then dies.
Yeah, Nightmare King doesn't do shit, and I completely also forgot about the jesters or the goblins or
oomps.
whatever the fuck.
The ones that constantly merge together and it's deeply uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah,
You-
who fucking
they,
cares?
they're the oomps.
The oops.
Uh, Also, let's take a second to appreciate that Nemo fucking murked the Nightmare King with a magical nuke, and turned the Nightmare Kingdom into a gray, lifeless void.
It only took him 12 minutes of trying to remember how to say a spell.
Actually, no, excuse me. It was white and pale blue, so that's how you know it's good. But it's also still a lifeless void. He
Yeah.
killed everything there except for the
I
goblins.
As he was swinging around that thing, I just kept on thinking of it as like that Davy Crockett thing from that. Like I know it exactly existed, but more from like Metal Gear.
Yeah, no, it's great. We'd established that basically the longer the incantation, the stronger the thing. Which is why he was able to cut shit with it despite only getting like 2 words out.
Yeah,
And then
he just straight up cuts like this. Flying things aren't like flying, like the wings off of it.
Yeah. But yes, just like I don't know why that last scene in particular just bothers me so much. It's like if anyone out there has seen the movie Army of Darkness and knows of the scene where Ash Williams just forgets the magic words to use the Necronomicon or whatever. It's that, except stretched out a bit. And it just goes on. Also, looking it up, Army of Darkness, 88 minutes. This movie, like 93 minutes.
It is an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, that's my take on the settings. Some work, some don't.
All right. What about you, X?
All right. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that I mean, it looked beautiful. It was beautiful animations, highly detailed backgrounds, tons of just expression and personality, and that's where the personality of the characters shines. And it's the animation. I do have to agree that a lot of the characters are either one dimensional, just straight up flat. Nemo can be very insufferable. I know they were basically going with like a child. He's a child, so he's bratty. He doesn't really understand things. He doesn't really learn his lessons, and it does suck that the movie sort of reinforces that behavior in him by rewarding him with A, becoming the heir to Dreamland, B, basically rescuing everybody without having to make any concessions as a character, and then C, at the end being rewarded with a trip to the circus he wanted so much, despite having eaten the pie prior.
Getting more.
And getting more pie, yeah. So it's and that's why I mentioned Ray Bradbury earlier, not just as trivia, because it's so awkward to see that level of negligence in the writing, because Ray Bradbury's a phenomenal writer. Fahrenheit 451 is still to this day considered a highly influential novel, despite the fact that people get it wrong and it was meant to criticize television. But that being said, it is a little weird seeing how janky some of the plot points are and things like that. There are some things we can give concessions to because it is supposed to be about dreams, so certain things aren't going to logically come together, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it does kind of hurt the plot in certain areas. Like Torp had mentioned, the Nightmare King gets briefly mentioned at one point during the movie and then appears very briefly at the end and has no overall presence. We see a nightmare when Nemo first arrives in Dreamland with the professor, but the nightmare, like, is that supposed to be somebody else's nightmare? Is it Nemo having a nightmare? It's not really touched upon, which is disappointing because there's so many things they could have done with that. The nightmare world itself, again, the Stove mentioned it, disappointing. They could have done a lot more with that. And yeah,
Also,
this
Nightmare World was just a shitty swamp in some stone pillar.
yeah, they could have done a lot of different stuff. Everything still looked phenomenal, but it's disappointing that they didn't do more with it and
The
go like,
direction was lacking more than
Yeah.
the.
they were going for just a straight up cartoon, and they did it, and they did it fantastically. It is a cartoon through and through, but it lacks a little of the imagination that you would expect from something of the dream. You do get it with the oomps. The oomps kind of represent that sort of malleable reality that you would expect from a dream. They merge together, they distort. There's all different stuff going on with them, and they serve as kind of a good metaphor for what a dream kind of looks like if you were to try to make one visual. Characters, yeah, I do agree in some regard. I think the princess was a little bit more than what we're giving the character credit for, because she was still fair. She was bratty and royalty, but she was also still very self. She was she was still fairly independent. She was she wasn't going to let anybody else tell her what to do, and not necessarily just in a spoiled royalist kind of way, but also in sort of a powerful character into of herself. When the demons tried to drag her into the water, she didn't wait for Nemo or anybody else to come help her. She just started wailing on him right away. Like, that was her first thought. And whenever Flip would bother her, she just beat the shit out of him. She didn't wait for somebody else to come and rescue her. Flip is garbage. There's just, I mean, we've gone over it, but it bears to repeat that Flip is easily the worst character in the movie. His motivations are simply to cause havoc, to screw over Nemo, and he's just unlikable. He's not funny. He's not interesting. He's racist. He can put green on whatever you want. It's still racist. And it's just a very bad character that the movie could have done without. Watching him get the shit kicked out of him is the highlight. The king, yeah, spoiled, not spoiled, but just a huge man-child and very clearly unfit to rule, which I think is very kingly. It's very fitting for his character. He just sucks at everything, so much so that he's willing to give over control of the kingdom to a child he just found out about. So I'm as crappy as he is, at least he's consistent. I'm taking a sip. At least he's consistently bad. It's not like there's little flashes of, but maybe he's actually a decent ruler. He's just kind of, no, he just sucks through and through. Who else we have? The professor is, I mean, he provides a sort of an interesting, I wouldn't say foil, but him being there, when he's actually there, it feels sort of like there could have been more. Like, maybe there was actually more to his character when he was on
He
screen.
got no screen time.
But when he was on screen, it always felt like there was something more that they had written for that character at that point. That's just the feeling I got whenever it was on. It's like, another example is right after when they after they get the demons to stop attacking the princess, the wand falls on the ground, and the professor exclaims, "Aha! They are afraid of the scepter." And it's like, wait, there's something more to that. He didn't say anything prior to that moment, so it feels just like there's plenty of moments that were probably on the cutting room floor that involved him a lot more in the plot. So he's just a weird character overall. So
It could just be carryovers from the comic.
So,
yeah,
one thing I would like to interject though is
yeah.
apparently there is a Japanese DVD version of this movie that is, as we mentioned, it's let's see if I can get the official time. It is 85 minutes for the theatrical cut. There is a Japanese DVD version that is 94 minutes long.
Nope.
So
And
yeah,
I feel like I'd be remiss to also point out visually, the artwork is done mostly in pastels, and it's a lot of it's very soft colors, and but it still manages to pop as you're watching it. Every just thing has just a nice feel and flow to it, and you just feel relaxed as you're watching. And I like that feeling. I like that just effect that a lot of it had on me, despite the fact that we have so many conflicting issues. There are issues with the movie, without question, but it's also I'm having a hard time putting into words. Just I really enjoyed watching it.
yeah. I mean, I could definitely this watching it, just seeing it throughout. Like, if you watch this on mute, I'm sure it would be a very entertaining thing. If you're just watching this for like what was going, like seeing the animation, then it would I would say I actually wonder if you kind of like watch this trying to conceive of a plot in your head as you were watching this. I wonder if you what that as an experience would be compared to actually just straight up watching it with the sound on.
And the other thing I want to say is, I think we sort of half touched on this. The ending part where with the incantation should have just been removed. It was long. It wasn't funny, and it was just every time they got to the incantation. A, you don't need one that long, and B, the bit wasn't funny, and you did it way too long. It was like a Family Guy bit, not funny, and goes on far longer than it needs to.
Yes.
I will say one thing I actually did forget about in terms of earlier, just saying that Nemo, like, obviously he doesn't really learn anything. I did forget about the whole like small problem of if you use this incantation you will die, and he says, well, why, how about I do anyway? Like, I guess that's a thing, but also who cares? Like, you're not gonna die, we know that, but I guess
Oh,
when he's faced with death, he says, "All right, cool. I need to save Slumberland, so I guess we're doing this."
and also there's the point where they unlock the door because tricks him into unlocking the door, and everybody's just happy to blame Flip. Even when Nemo admits he's the one who fucked up, he is absolutely the one who did wrong, and he tries to take responsibility for it. And it's a very rare moment of character arc for him where he's like, "Yeah, no, I did a bad thing." Everyone's like, "No, no, 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 you're not to blame. It's definitely the racist character who's to blame."
I get,
I
I
Was to blame though.
I
Kind
mean
of, but Nemo still did unlock the door.
Nemo is
Nemo,
also a child who he kept goading on into opening the door.
I think it's more like if you think about that scene, like they are
Also,
basically
he
it's like
has a price on his.
it does also it's like
yeah.
they were like very clear. It's like the moment they see that Flip is even remotely involved, it's like no, he deserves 100% of the blame for this. I think that's kind of more what you were kind of going for.
It's more just like they don't let Nemo take responsibility, even though it was in most part because of Flip's influence. But they still should have held him didn't have to hold him like accountable to the same degree, but they need to at least acknowledge, yeah, you kind of listened to the wrong person. You shouldn't do that again. Instead, they let him off completely, and that kind of falls in line with how Nemo really kind of gets away with shitty behavior, where he's not held accountable for the action. He's a kid, yes, but you still hold kids accountable to a degree, to a same degree. And the very minimum, they should have said, yes, you shouldn't have opened the door and you shouldn't have listened to Flip. However, we also understand that this is who this guy is. We also understand you're a child. And they could have done something with that, but they didn't. They just absolved him completely. And that just didn't rub me very well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, I'm pretty sure we kind of went over mostly I'm pretty sure we covered most of the bases, other than we didn't talk about Beep Bop or whatever the name of the kind of I'm going to figure out Bonbon, the kind of the servant lady who gave that
Oh,
kind of came to Nemo.
I completely forgot she existed.
Yeah, the one that brought the candies.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know
she
who
only
else we
appears in
forgot
a
to
few
talk about?
scenes.
We also forgot to talk about Icarus.
Oh right. The
Also, we didn't
the
even
cute animal that was
mention
there
the
because
parents either.
yeah, also, there's a flying squirrel that just comes across this entire movie. No one talks about it. That can
No one
talk.
cares.
And the way it talks is you can sort of make out what it's trying to say. It's kind of like not Beaker and not quite Kenny from South Park, but shit.
It's
You know what I'm thinking of though.
it's kind of it kept coming up stuff like this. You gotta hear what
And
they're talking about. I
occasionally
never
they
know what they
say
get.
a
Yeah,
word.
it's sort of like saying words, but not. is the best
Yeah,
way
yeah,
to
it is.
describe
It is cutesy animal bullshit speak.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
everybody understands that, Chris. Everybody.
Yeah, it's there almost like to fill a check mark. I don't want to like dismiss it as much as that, but it's like I'm pretty sure you didn't exist in the comic strip. I mean, I can look that up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost all these are taken from the movie. Also, I am closing this tab.
What did you do?
I googled a character on Google. Anyway,
Moving
yes,
on.
yeah. There's that. So yeah, one thing kind of mentioned that yeah, this does have kind of a this was worked on simultaneously by Western and Japanese. I don't want to say developers, but like people from both sides or from all over the planet worked on this. And watching this, there was something about it that watching it that was fascinating to me because you could tell that it was animated in Japan, but also there was a lot of Western influence on it. So it was this weird merge of both that was having both aspects of Western animation and anime at the same time. And it was just something wasn't 100% right. So, how do you feel about this mix of animations? Or do you see it as much as I did?
I definitely did. Again, like like I said at the start, when I was watching this, I get the same feeling I got when I first saw Spirited Away. It was just this nice, warm feeling, and I just felt comfortable, and I enjoyed it. I didn't feel quite as odd as I did with Spirited Away, but just like it hit me in all the right spots, and I could definitely see the Japanese influence. I could see the Western influence, and I thought they merged perfectly in this film. Getting aside the writing problems, the plot problems, the character problems, I can't see any flaws in the animation, the artwork. This was just a beautiful, fluid film for me.
What
Yeah,
about you, Stove?
I agree. In general, TMS is really good at blending the styles, but I mean, I guess kind of again, it draws in the inspiration from here is a Western comic strip, so it's going to have a little bit more of a Western kind of feel to it, I guess. And then in terms, you have a Japanese animation studio which is really good at identifying cultures, identifying how things should look, because I believe that TMS also worked on Lupin the Third as well, which
Yeah, I
I guess I
believe
can't.
I believe the main director for this worked on Mystery of Mamo at least.
Yeah, so in terms of the film, everything just seems to mix really well. Like the characters and the setting don't really clash as much as I would think. The only time I think it's kind of egregious, or rather it's definitely more Western based, is again the Nightmare Realm, where it's just kind of swampy and gloomy and disappointing, because that's generally where you would expect the evildoers to live. That would be where the bad guy is. And I don't know. That part that's the only part where I think the influence just doesn't work out really. But even then, I guess it still kind of fits with the story. So altogether, thumbs up.
Yep. What about you, Torpo?
I mean, fine. It's a good looking movie. Like it animates well, all that, but like the mixture of the styles is obvious, but it works. But I don't really have much to say outside of that. That hasn't already.
All right. Yeah, just watching it. Like I kind of want to see, like, I kind of want to watch this on YouTube and just see how that works out, or watch it in Japanese and don't put on the subtitles. Because when you get like the kind of somewhat basic writing out of it, like it kind of like, oh, okay, got to watch this as a thing. But if you're kind of like need to kind of generalize what's going on, I'm sure like in just watching the animation of it, because we've all said it, this movie looks beautiful. Like there is no doubt about that. So yeah, I think if there's anything to take from this, you should at least watch this for just. You can actually apparently just TMS has a YouTube channel. I don't know if it's an unofficial one, but it was called just like TMS, and it's not been nuked from YouTube. So there you can watch this movie on YouTube, and if you just at least watch some snippets of it, and it is just a very, very beautiful movie. And this will probably be a short question because I think we've kind of been over this. But Torpo, how do you feel like this is a movie based on a
Yes.
concert from
Yes. Oh boy, howdy, yes. I mean, A, it has that feel in general, and B, there are the obvious races that we've got. Like they definitely tried to kind of, I wouldn't say step away from it, tried to
They
make
tried to
it
wash
less
over it.
obvious. Like, so as
They
I said, the
greenwashed it.
servants, it's like the servants who had their skin lightened,
Mm.
or once again our good buddy Flip in his sickly green skin,
Yep.
shit like that. But
Also,
like,
some other things is that just in general, some from what I remember reading of the comic strip of it, uh, parental styling has changed a lot since even the like even from then to the 80s, which a lot of that was downplayed in this movie.
tell me more
Uh,
about in your ass beat.
yeah, that happens a lot in, or that is threatened a lot in Little Nemo, the comic strip. That is not done in the movie, weirdly enough.
Bang zoom, straight
Strange.
to the moon.
Yeah.
Like I said, it definitely has. I can see the comic feel there. It's like, yeah, no, I can definitely. It all makes.
All right. What about you, Stove?
Yeah, I really don't really have anything to put on this level. Just yeah, it definitely feels like a movie based on a very very early comic strip. Some of the characters just don't have any character at all. It seems very kind of like stereotypical. Like the professor even is very stereotypical. And then just
Eh,
Yeah, they all have their roles that
hate that
they
it came.
fill.
Yeah, there's nothing really substantial there.
so what about you, Ax?
I mean, come on, yeah, this is absolutely everything everybody mentioned. There's the same racism, there's the same feel, the parenting kind of. It's yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
no
So
question.
now to move on to the thing the reason why we're actually watching this. So yeah, Little Nemo, the Dream Master came out on the NES, and that was a lot of people's first exposure to Little Nemo because they never watched this movie. Because one other thing I do want to mention, a bit of trivia. Apparently, it's apparently not been officially kind of disclosed, but it's estimated that this movie had a budget of $35 million. Worldwide, it made about 1 million. So it was a bomb when it released in theaters.
Mhm.
But I mean, this movie, whoever distributed this in Japan really wanted this to be a thing. So uh, after the movie came out, Capcom released a game. Actually, they released two games, one for the arcade and one for the NES, which is the one that people are probably most familiar with. And it actually came out here before the movie due to how the release worked. Or I might have had that backwards. Anyway, uh, yeah, Axe, did seeing if you're, I don't know if you
I
were
don't even
here.
remember seeing it, to be honest. I don't even remember what the game was like, so I don't know if I can honestly
So
answer this question.
if it was a while since we looked at it, so if you don't remember how it played, essentially it is Nemo kind of just going through a bunch of different worlds, not really associated much with the movie, although it is tied to the movie in Japan. Like the logo is the exact same in Japan as it is in the movie. And the thing in the game is that the thing that I just remember most about it is that its main game like gimmick is that Nemo has that candy that he feeds to various animals, and when he feeds it to certain animals, they fall asleep, and Nemo crawls inside of them and
Oh
becomes them.
shit! Yeah, that's right. Now I
Yeah,
remember.
fucking
Yeah,
skits.
now I remember. We were ripping on that super hard because of how just like super skeevy that comes. Yeah, no. Now I fucking remember it. Yeah, no. That the game was nothing like the movie. The movie was very much a chill kind of ride. The game was sort of this weird body horror nightmare with some cutesy shit going on around. Now. Thanks for jump starting my memory on that. I'm gonna appreciate that as I go to
All
sleep
this
tonight.
fucking trauma coming back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I remember just how not good that was. The game has nothing like what the movie does, so no. Fucking no.
what about you, Sto?
Give me.
Stove's just rewatching the episode.
Okay, that game has nothing that this movie brings to the table.
So, Stove, can you repeat that? Your thing cut out just a little bit.
No, I refuse. Fuck
That
off.
was
That
amazing.
was so perfect.
Okay, all right. I'll give this another shot. I'm sorry.
No, it's-
That that game has nothing to do with the movie. It couldn't be any more different. Like Flip is there, sure, fine, but who gives a shit? Yeah, like where was the mushroom forest in the movie, huh? I don't remember there being a mushroom forest.
I know there was a train level.
There was a train level, yes, but yeah, like playing through the game would not at all prepare you for the movie. It would just be, well, okay, here's the game. It looks nothing like it, but I guess that looks like Nemo, that looks like the Scepter, and that looks like Flip. So there we go.
Yep.
Yep.
What about you, Turbo?
Duh. So I kept asking the entire movie, when is Nemo going to feed that frog some candy and hop into its body while it's still alive? And Lolo kept saying, no, that's not how this works. And I'm like, shut up. What about the game?
Uh, also, I'm looking because I'm not super familiar with the arcade game, and this looks really weird. Because it looks like if you're familiar with it's another Capcom thing, and it looks like if you've ever played the game Magic Sword by Capcom, it looks kind of like that. Also, I'm distressed to find out that it is 2-player cooperative. Player 2 plays as Flip.
I
Yeah,
also see
no.
that Flip is not. They didn't care about that in this game, huh?
Oh yeah, I found that screenshot. Yep, that's not that. He's not green. He's not green. He's very much not green.
Mr. Popo is back, baby.
So my point
Wow.
is, the game is nothing at all like the movie. There's no flesh suits. There's no platforming like that.
You
Bunch
sound
of
almost
stages that are in the
disappointed.
game. It's a shame because the game is. I want my goddamn skin suit.
Yeah.
Put
Well-
that on the back of the box. I want my skin suits, fuckers.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Skimming through the arcade game, I will say that one looks a little bit closer to the source material, but
Yeah.
that one wasn't the one that was played, now was it?
No. No. Anyway, Turbo, do you feel that this movie could you make a good video game out of it?
I mean, just a fucking like I could see this kind of thing just being a game. Just, you know how they made a dumb platformer for literally every movie that came out, evenly targeted towards kids. Just that is what I picked.
So yes, I do remember the NES era and the SNES era.
Oddly enough, the era in which the Little Nemo game came out.
Yes.
I think honestly, you could basically you could just make a platformer based on this. Just I think if you just take out the force feeding the animals candy thing, you might
And hopping inside of their bodies.
But
and
then you
using them
lose-
like a flesh suit.
But then you lose the game's core mechanics, though.
yeah, that is the
You-
problem.
Do you really have a game then?
Yeah, I'd say so.
You've lost Torpid's
Yeah.
vote by losing the flesh suit, Stowe.
Ugh.
Now I'm also just thinking about because I was thinking of like what other games Capcom made during that era. Like they were based on movies. Because I was thinking, I'm like, God, it's weird that it's Disney, it's the Disney games, it's Nemo, and it's Sweet Home. But then I remember they also made a movie based on or a game based on Willow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Capcom's weird.
Capcom
Anyway.
is very weird. But yeah, no, I think this film is primed for video games. It just was they took a little bit of creative liberties with it, and I don't know, it's your call on whether or not that's better or worse. I'm fine with it. It ain't the movie.
All right, X, what about you?
I'm gonna branch off. I think you could actually do a proper like 3D action adventure game out of something like this, like 100 Winks, or you could probably make a good game. You could probably do something like Kingdom Hearts, but good.
Not possible.
I honestly think like you could do a little Nemo thing, sort of taking some. You'd take some liberties. I think you'd want to do a little more imaginative stuff with the dreamland and the nightmare world, but you could definitely do something interesting with it other than just a banal platform.
Make a collectathon platform, make them spout like Gex.
Yeah. Exactly. Or you could just have a button that you hold down and he does the entire incantation, but if you release it too early then he flubs it, and you could just keep doing that over and over and recreate the most famous scene from the movie where he can't remember a 17-word incantation.
Yep.
But no,
It's
yeah,
pajama.
yeah, you just have your dedicated pajama button. But no, I think you could do something interesting.
All right. Well, I think it's time we actually rank this thing. So,
In the
if
garbage.
if
Shut up.
you are not familiar, we have a 1 to 21 ranking scale, which 1 being absolute mastercraft and 21 being complete garbage, not even fun to watch.
22.
So starting
Shut up, Torpid.
starting with UX, what would you put this at?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to not be too extreme on this and say I'm somewhere between 7 and 9.
Okay. What about you, Stove?
This I promise this isn't a goof. I would say between 10 and 12.
Okay.
I promise I'm not making a joke. That like adequate is pretty much what I feel about the movie.
All right. What about you, Torpo?
Man, I'm gonna fuck this up, but I was thinking
Okay.
Close enough.
I'm going to say 13 solely so we can have all the numbers get us straight.
Fuck off.
God damn it, Lolo.
Not actually. Yeah, I feel like this movie, it's not bad, but there was a really good. I saw a descriptor for this movie online of someone talking about it, and they had a really good expression for it. This is a very like this is looking to be served a meal. Well, well, maybe not this. This is like looking at a meal that is prepared. Like it is a extremely fancy plate. Like it is the most ornate plate you've seen that had the most basic ham sandwich. It is very pleasing to look at, but the actual food, like the actual substance, isn't as elegant as the presentation means this or gives it.
It's a very nice looking pie crust.
Yeah. And then I mean having pie crust on its own can be tasty, but it's not a pie.
All right, but so where do you sit, Lolo? That's
I
all
honestly
fine.
like pie.
That's a really lively sentence.
I honestly would say that I'm probably in Stove's camp. I would say somewhere between 10 and 12.
I came down. How the fuck am I still on the other end of the goddamn spectrum here?
I mean, I'm not that far off.
Torpid's on the one end, I'm on the other.
And I'm in the creamy middle.
I know, no joke.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I am not gonna rag on you for liking this movie, Axe. If you like it, super more power to you. I'm just kind of like, it's pretty good.
So looking at the
more
list,
good than bad.
looking at the list of things, we have like something in the range of like because I'm looking like at axes. So we actually have something at 7 and something at 9 in this list, or in the essence, which we're putting it in. We have Tron at 7, and the original Area 88 OVA at 9. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking I would watch Area 88 at least a little bit over this.
I mean, the dog fights and that look nice, but more importantly,
yeah. I was gonna say that was another one where I was like, boy, this looks kind of like there's some weird things. Also, there's some very not great things in Area 88.
Oh yeah.
Let me look at the what do we have in the resonance? So at 10 we have So at 10 in the resonance list we have the wizardry, which kind of almost in a weird way is kind of comparable because that is also a incredibly bog standard plot in general, but wasn't. I mean, its story was a little bit better, but it wasn't quite as well animated. So it had a little bit more towards the story end. I would definitely say it's not in the camp of 15 because the Salamander OVA is at.
Also, to be fair, part of the reason we ranked because of material and how strangely dedicated it was.
Yeah, too. Also, it didn't really do anything that terribly bad either. Yeah. Like we said, we have that is true. Salamander we have at 15. I would actually say yes, this is higher than Salamander by a good bit. Because that is just a movie. At least if nothing's happening in this movie, I can at least look at something pretty.
Yeah.
So I think that I want to say that 11 is probably a good spot for this.
I'd say 10 or 11, yeah. If only because it is gorgeous. It is a gorgeous movie.
Put it up to 10 just so I feel less bad about it since my thought was 9. Put it at 10 just so I can have it rub up against my 9 and
I'll put it at 11. It's enjoyably adequate.
Also, you want to know what something else that was rated at 11? Little Nemo the Dream Master for the NES.
Give me a goddamn win. No, give me the win, damn it. I need what little win I could get here.
No, it's I say 11.
Honestly, I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe 10 would be a good compromise, but honestly, Lolo, you just sold me on 11.
You piece of shit, Lolo. Next year at MagFest, motherfucker.
Because I'm thinking, like, if I'm thinking this compared to the NES game, like, I actually don't know if I'd say that I like the NES game better than the movie because the game's kind of an asshole.
Yeah. You know what? I'd give you that.
If anything, say, do we have anything? The only reason I'd say actually 11 is we do have something already at 10. Well, we have wizardry, so having some spread might help with these early lists. All right, so 11 it is. So yes, Little Nemo the Dream Master. Wait, Little Nemo's Adventures in Slumberland. Almost said Adventures in Babysitting. That'll be different. Also Christopher Columbus, but still, I think. Okay. Is there anything we want to? I mean, also. Should I put the problematic tag?
Put in that yikes.
Whoop, not all that. I don't want to have all the things that Megami Tensei had. Okay, so do we want to give thumbs up in music, charm, cinematography, theatrics, action, and art?
Okay, so first off,
I'd
thumbs
say
down
action
for
and art.
music. Yeah,
Hold on,
action.
could you repeat that because you both said something at the same time?
Okay. All right. So on my end, I said thumbs down for music because I didn't like any of the music numbers. Thumbs up. I agree with Torpid. Action and art. God,
I will fucking shoot you down if you say charm, because that movie had.
shut. I was actually thinking about cinematography. Join forces.
Uh,
We can defeat Torpid.
man, I was actually thinking charm as well.
I mean, okay. So some of the characters suck, but I mean, the overall feel of the movie was very charming, and
Because
I will
there's a
fight you
thing.
to death on that.
There's a thing about it is very because it's the thing. It's like okay, at what point does the art begin and like the design? Like what part of the design? What is art and what is charm?
Well, the movie is, I think it's conflicting because, I mean, the art is extremely, well, if you discount the characters, certain characters for a brief moment, the rest of the characters still were very vibrant, very animated. They were charming despite the fact that they didn't have much of personality.
See, I see charm is more of like a right.
I think it's like not to be like more pretentious. It's a synthesis of a couple different things. It is the art working with the writing to make something that is itself. But
And I think they're not, I think they can be at times mutually exclusive. One
I
can
don't
be
think
one.
the
and-
art makes it charming. It's very nice to look at. It's very
that's
pretty.
saying that it can be, not necessarily always.
Yeah,
But
I feel in the case of this movie, I feel the art stands away from the writing. Like
Greatly.
the writing lacks a lot of charm, whereas the art has a ton of it.
yeah,
It cannot make up for the writing shortcoming.
because the thing is that I actually don't think that the I think giving it just a thumbs up for art. What I actually might do instead is rather than giving a thumbs up in art, I think we need something we need like gold medal for art. Like this is some of the best art we've so far. Like I think it just needs to be said. Like this is a very beautiful movie.
Stove says art and charm. This is bullshit. Internet, let me defend myself.
It's
Yeah,
bullshit.
It's not
Um,
charming.
I see. Yeah, I honestly just think the designs are charming. That's all I got.
That's the thing. It's like, boy, this is a pretty movie. Those characters are designed really good. It's like,
I guess I find the idea of it charming more than the writing be charming, if anything. Like the concept you could do with a little Nemo, the potential is charming, I guess, which doesn't really make up
Yeah, but the
a
potential
charming
is
movie.
not the movie.
Yeah. I'll give it that.
Yeah, I think rather than just saying thumbs up art and thumbs up charm, I think we just need something really stand out in. I would say for art in general.
Yeah, as I said, like the art is very nice. It does not make up for lackluster writing.
Because like
And I
if I'm
cannot
looking,
call it charming if it lacks that kind of.
because if I'm looking at things we've marked charm for, we have Area 88, which has really unique characters that are unique and have charm to them. We got Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie, which has the quirks of the like Looney Tunes characters and the really good writing that make it kind of fascinating. Dirty Pair, Project Eden. We have the characters who are very charming. We have Pat Labor, which is in itself kind of quirky and like for what it is.
But you gave it charming for Die Hard.
Die Hard had that was like one of the first kind of action movies, kind of like that. I would say John McClane in a weird sense is kind of charming.
Also,
Also, it is very cheap, which is also very yeah.
It's gonna hurl. Can't stop
Yeah,
me.
just drop plates on our fucking podcast. It's great.
It also Megami Tensei, which gets a thumbs down because that sucked.
Yeah, it was
Not
the-
charming in the
devoid
slightest.
It was the
charm.
opposite of charm. Whatever the opposite of charm is, that was
Yeah.
Megami
Fucking
Tensei.
Yeah,
foul.
I don't think Little Nemo actually I can say because I have it for other things.
Mhm.
I'm going to pay.
Ultra charm. Give it a gold goddamn medal.
The idea is there.
Okay.
It just wasn't there. It's like a almost a half. It's
Or
the
in this
budding
case,
of a thought.
or in this case, it is two disparate things. You have the writing, which isn't charming, but you have the art, which is, and they just sort of meet in the middle.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at
I'm fine with that.
that. For yay or nay, I will say I do think it
Length.
goes on way too
Oh god.
long.
It's not just that it goes on too long. It feels long.
Yeah,
Which is what I mentioned at the start.
Also, I will give it. Yeah, it's like not like a it's not like a slow that helps it. It is a slow that definitely hurts it.
Bold of them to make a movie that is a minute long for each year since the source material came out.
Yeah.
You can feel every.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah. It is.
It wasn't that bad.
It is
but
exactly in the middle, according
Yeah.
to this.
No, it really dragged it. You cannot do that.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that the ending was not a. It was definitely a bit draggy.
Remember that
but-
time the Nightmare King killed off his entire court because he pissed off at one guy? That was
I
real
mean-
fucked up. And then fucking little Nemo committed a genocide.
Well, could he commit a genocide when everybody else was already killed?
I said his
It-
court.
It dragged on just
Yeah,
like
it was
the
fun.
80s. I don't fucking know. I wasn't born then.
Fuck Reagan.
Anyway, on that note, I think actually no. Well, Reagan wasn't around when this movie came out. I mean, he was around, but
He wasn't president at that point.
Okay.
89.
I
'cause
get
was
it.
then-
Regardless,
anyway.
who gives a
Yes.
fuck?
Anyway, yeah.
We
so
try
that-
to be factual here. All right.
That is Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland.
Holy shit.
Before we go, in alphabetical order, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yes, I've got my stream, http:/twitch.tv/axeimmortal. I'm playing through all the Kingdom Hearts games, and I'll be doing a charity stream in April on my birthday.
All right. Stove, what about you?
Uh-oh.
I'm
No.
pretty sure what he's saying right now is that he is at twitch.tv/portable stove and he streams games regularly throughout the week and weekend sometimes.
And his internet is bullshit. Let him defend himself!
Yeah, when his internet's working, you'll do that.
Hashtag
what-
free stove.
What about you, Torpo?
Twitch.tv/torpidtypus, at torpidtypus on Twitter. And I would like to plug the fact that I don't get nightmares. Fuck you, I already did my Jedi. How about you?
I
All
will
right.
haunt you, torpid typist.
All
It's
right.
true though, I don't get nightmares. It's great.
Let's wrap this up, please.
Yeah. So
I could go another couple hours.
well,
What
we got to talk about what we're talking about next week, which is going to be what originally was going to be a part 2, but two-part series. Spoiler: I don't think we're going to get 2 parts out of it.
so bad.
Talking about the Parappa the Rapper anime.
So boring.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Hold on,
Oh, yes.
Torpid. Don't spoil it.
That'll be next
Spoilers,
week.
it's boring.
At least the first episode seemed to be pretty boring from what I've seen of it. Anyway,
Hey,
Yes,
shout
that'll be
out, by the
next.
way, real quick before we finish up.
I thought we wanted to wrap it up.
Shut up, Axe.
Fucking twitch.tv/LoloDePuzzlo. What the fuck?
what?
Twitch.tv/LoloDePuzzlo. Hey,
Oh,
look
they-
at
they-
Retro Rank Rhapsody. It's good.
I have that bullshit in the little description thing.
Good. I mean, I'm there, and Axe is there.
Well, you'll have to find out by coming to twitch.tv/LoloDePuzzlo.
Also YouTube.tv or I
YouTube.
forgot my
YouTube.com/LoloDePuzzlo.
is the URL. Anyway, thanks for listening.
This has been a mess.
I'm
Thank
done.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Fuck this.
Sweet dreams.
I only get dreams.
Shut up, Torpid.
I'm
Great.
sorry.
Okay, we're good.
I love it.
This has been another episode of Media Delta. If you would like to view the entire list of rankings for yourself, you can go to r3.ldp.life to see the Resonance and Essence list that Media Delta covers, as well as the other lists that are covered by our sister show, Retro Rank Rhapsody. If you'd like to watch Retro Rank Rhapsody, you can watch it live on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Twitch at twitch.tv/LoloDePuzzlo. Or you can view any of the episodes anytime at youtube.ldp.life. If you would like to help with hosting costs, you can go to patreon.ldp.life and help out with a $2 or $5 pledge. If you would like to discuss this episode and any other episode of our community, you can join our Discord server at discord.ldp.life. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can follow it at Hazeltown Story, or you can follow me, your host, at LoloDePuzzlo. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back for the next episode.